Zach.
Michael.
We are starting a podcast, and if you are with us on YouTube, you will notice it's different, but if you are just listening in your car, it may seem normal, but it's not normal, completely different for us.
Yes.
We never had a live audience. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, hopefully it might be the first and the last time that this works. But we've got an addition to our crew today that's going to just take us up another level.
Yeah.
Where all our eggs are in this basket, Greg. We're counting on you to really make this work.
All right, so welcome, Mr. Greg Alderman? Doctor, philosopher?
Reverend,
the yes. Most reverend high.
Yes, Greg Alderman.
All right. All right, so we are here at the men's retreat with CBC, right. And out on a nice location at Folly Beach. And
check out the mural.
Turtle on the wall.
Shout out to Kathy Gillespie.
Yep.
That looks like good work.
So, Greg, you're going to be talking to us about
perseverance.
And
it's a great topic.
It is a great topic. And so we had some trivia /challenges
hopefully
missions.
This will be exciting. I'm sure we'll have some good participation. We wanted to give away a couple of prizes. I think some really good resources. We've got 4 copies of this book, Disciplines of a Godly Man, by R. Kent Hughes. And in addition to this book, we got some gift cards to go along with it. 2 of the challenges are really just trivia questions. So
great trivia
they'll be
questions.
easy. The last 2 with the higher dollar gift card might be a little bit of a physical challenge that illustrates perseverance.
All right.
But I think this could...
You want to kick it? You want to... Am I going out of order?
No.
Okay,
What are you trying to say?
I thought you were going to start yours, and then I started mine.
Ooh,
is that right?
You want to do... Let's start it off with one
of
your easy ones, get it going, then we'll get into the hard
Well,
stuff.
this is I think it's the easier one. So we're talking about perseverance. We're going to talk about perseverance, Lord of the Rings style. So I mean, hopefully y'all are Lord of the Rings fans, but there's a lot of perseverance demonstrated in Lord of the Rings. So this is the first question. Hopefully it's easy. Hopefully someone gets it. Towards the end of Return of the King, Sam says these words, "Come, Mr. Frodo," he cried, "I can't carry it for you, but," and fill in the blank. Raise your hand. I can carry you. There we go.
Nice
there
work.
We go. Nicely done.
Let's get this man up.
Very nice.
All right, that was the easiest giveaway of the night. It gets a little bit harder, but this is good. When I think of perseverance, I think of, the biblical authors are calling us to persevere all the time. Pay attention lest you drift away. Don't neglect such a great salvation. So many great books and passages to keep pressing on. And so this is more of a physical challenge. I don't know if you walked in. Oh, so speaking of walking in, we've got someone walking in here. We've got 2 pull-up bars in either doorway. And part of perseverance, when I think of it, one of my favorite passages in Scripture is this passage in First Timothy 4, where Paul is writing to Timothy and talks about what's it mean to be a good servant of Jesus Christ, and talks a lot about training. Train yourself for godliness. Bodily training is of some value, but godliness is of value in every way. And so to me, I'm thinking, it's good to train yourself to be ready when perseverance comes. And as a physical therapist, I see this all the time. I go in, I evaluate someone, and one of the easiest ways to assess someone's overall functional health is to see how strong their grip strength is, how long they can hold on to something, how much force they can't exert. And there's a lot of good research behind having a strong grip and quality of life and so many other things. So can I get a volunteer who thinks they could just hang from a pull-up bar? All right, yeah, come on up. Anyone else? I want one more. If we have 2, this will be great, because we got 2 pull-up bars. We might see who can hang on longer, even.
No other volunteer? Oh, the brothers.
Yes, the Gwynn brothers. I love it. Yeah, this is good. So here are the rules.
Take your boots off.
Yeah, that's a good advice from the back there. If you can hang on for 1 minute, which you guys will knock this out of the park, you will automatically win the prize which is a book and a $10 gift card. If you beat the other person, you win a $25 gift card. So there's a little more incentive to hang on. So I'm gonna get a stopwatch out.
Are we running numbers on who's gonna win?
Yeah, who we got?
I'm taking numbers right here.
This will be good. I'm getting my stopwatch out. Can we get one of y'all on this pull-up bar over here? We probably want to make it even, and so I guess that's part of the strategy. What kind of grip you want to use?
I'll take one of those.
You got numbers? Who you got?
Nice. I think this group will do good. Are you guys ready? If I give you guys a countdown, don't do it yet, but I'll say ready, set, go, and then you just got to hang there. Use that grip strength. All right. We're looking pretty good. Ready, set, and go. And so I thought this might take a minute or two, or maybe longer.
Maybe longer than
Two minutes is really hard to do. If they can go for more than 2 minutes, I will be impressed. That's a good benchmark to shoot for. And so I thought I would drop a little bit of knowledge. There was a really good study about grip strength done in the early 2000s. The study involved 142,000 people, so a huge sample size. And if you have a strong grip that's normed for your age and gender, if you have that, if it's weaker than that, then your risk for all-cause mortality, dying of anything, goes up by 20% right out of the gates. You're 2.5 times more likely to be hospitalized in the next 3 months. You're more likely to have a stroke or a heart attack. It's actually a better predictor of a stroke or a heart attack than systolic blood pressure, which is kind of interesting. So you want that grip to be strong. Once you lose that, you lose the ability to open things, even put on your clothes and that kind of thing, and you
1 minute
weaker. So you guys already won a prize. How we feeling? Let's check in. Looks good over there. Not making a lot of noise.
Nathan, how you doing, buddy?
He's gonna win. I like it. They can't see each other either, so it's like I don't know. You don't want to give up. I like that. A couple more stats. These are different studies, but I think so interesting that if you have a weak grip, you're 20 to 30% more likely to have chronic pain, 1.5 times more likely to be clinically depressed, 27% more likely to have cardiovascular disease, 14% more likely to have a cognitive impairment like dementia, 20% more likely to have type 2 diabetes, and 50 to 60% more likely to have prediabetes or metabolic syndrome. So me as a therapist, I go and I test someone's grip strength right away because it's more of a correlation than causation, but it gives you some insight on how healthy someone is and if you want to hit that strength.
These guys are healthy.
Yeah,
These guys are strong. They got good grip.
Yeah.
Feeling pretty good. We're hitting the 2 minute mark, which is good.
2 minutes. That's really good.
Oh, and they look like they could go all day. We might have to. Well, maybe we do this while they're going. Let's ask another question.
Ask another trivia question. Okay. So this is another Perseverance, Lord of the Rings style. Oh.
That's all right. You made it over 2 minutes.
That's good.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
And he's still going?
He's still going.
Oh.
May as well.
He's just one hand now.
Did you lap it so we can see with his current?
We'll just add a few seconds on that.
Add 20 seconds. Okay. While he's still going, in one of the most epic feats of endurance, Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas run nearly nonstop in order to save their companions, Merry and Pippin.
Very
Down. That was pretty good. We were at the 3 minute mark. That's good. That's good. That's good.
253. So like 213 and then 253.
Yeah, and really, I mean, they have clinics popping up, like these anti-aging, like for physical function, and this is one of the tests they'll do, and they really try to get you over 2 minutes as their goal. They say, man, if you can do that, you're likely to age. That keeps you strong as you age, so you guys got a little while to go before you're aging, but that's good. Stay strong.
All right, so do I need to start the question over again? Were y'all focused on that? Okay,
Start
all
over,
right.
yeah.
In one of the most epic feats of endurance, Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas run nearly nonstop in order to save their companions Merry and Pippin across the plain of Rohan. In 3 days, how far did they run? I'll take the closest answer. So if you want to wager a guess, how far do you think they ran? I'll take it in leagues, which is what J.R.R. Tolkien gave us, or miles. Leagues or miles.
Wow. This is... Honestly, hearing Michael talk so much about Lord of the Rings every week, that's perseverance.
It's perseverance.
I think I just yeah, it's too much.
Anyone want to wager a guess? Danny.
80 miles.
80 miles. Anyone else want to wager a guess? Yeah. 30 miles.
57.2.
3 days.
I like the exactness.
90.
100.
47. 100.
57.2.
127.
110.
110. 20.
We're doing miles or leagues?
Miles. Okay.
How
Anyone
far
else
is a
want to do a guess? 57.2. 99.
Oh man.
180.
180.
Sound good to me.
Okay. Going once, going twice. 45 leagues or 135 miles. Joel, I think you got it.
I always have this book. So here, you can give it to somebody else. What is there?
Who said one?
It's
Who said 110? Someone said 110.
I did.
There you go. There you go.
Good job.
All right.
All right, that was kind of the warm-up part of the podcast. Normally we kind of start off with a little bit of, talking, that kind of thing. And then we say this pivotal phrase that I'm going to ask Greg if he will say, because it really just kicks off and gets us into the meat of the
Let me
podcast.
show it to you. There's the phrase right there.
Let's take this to the next level.
There we go.
Nice. From the hearts of the Low Country in South Carolina.
It's the Take Two podcast, where we take theology to the next level.
We'll get to the good part now, kind of dive into our interview with Greg. You want to kick us off, Michael?
Yeah, so Greg, I've known you for a long time as an acquaintance. I remember you coming and preaching for us. We learned about pig suey from you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, remember that?
Yeah.
You probably don't.
How many years ago was
yeah.
this?
Wow.
It was like 2005, 2004.
Yes.
Yeah,
It was a
14, yeah.
long time ago.
Yeah. First case of suicide, right?
That's
what's-
right.
Yeah, when the pigs ran over the edge. So.
And the first instance of deviled ham.
Yeah. But, we may not know the deeper side of who Greg is. So we wanted to ask some questions, and we thought that maybe you could just give us your testimony, how you came to know Christ. Was there a defining moment? Were you raised in a Christian home or not? Kind of tell us about that.
Yes, I could probably say that of all the people who had the most idyllic childhood, it would be me. God blessed me in so many ways. Perhaps he knew I would not have the endurance or ability to overcome something different, but wonderful parents, wonderful grandparents, wonderful environment in churches where I heard the truth of the gospel from a very young age. Again, a great blessing for me. Surrounded by truth, and the defining moment when I came to know Christ was when it was in October of 1969, just as a young man, and I had a stomach ache. I was brought to Christ on the heels of a terminal stomach ache, which I thought was terminal. I thought I was going to die. It wasn't that bad, but when you're 8. And I was lying in my bed at night, and I was afraid because I knew that I was a sinner. I was telling someone earlier that now the favorite thing for my grandkids to hear are the stories from when I got a spanking, which chronicled the darkness of my heart as I was growing up, because I got a plethora of spankings. And I did not need any proof that I was a sinner, but I was scared to go to sleep that night because I thought this pain would lead to my death. And in my imminent demise, I yelled for my mom, and she came in and knelt beside my bed, and I was troubled because I knew Christ died for me. I knew that I was a sinner. I knew that I needed forgiveness for my sin, but I wasn't exactly sure how to go about talking to God about it. And my mom spent time with me that night, and I cried out to the Lord on my deathbed.
Amen.
And so fear of hell was something that motivated me in a way that pushed me into the grace.
That's great.
And the relationship with Christ, which I understood a little bit at 8 and have grown to appreciate and love and cherish more as I've grown into what I understand more about what really happened that night, which was really neat. But it was a childlike faith on my deathbed at 8 years old.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
What I like about that story too is just, I'm sure the family you were in, you probably heard the gospel a lot, that you knew it well. Family that would discipline you when you did things wrong, and and God using all these different circumstances to bring you to Him. So that's when you were 8. As you grew up, got older, at ABC, what led you to want to pursue Christian college? How has that shaped your ministry? What all went into that?
I love talking about this, and the neat thing about growing up where I was near Beckley, West Virginia, was that nearby was Appalachian Bible College. One of the requirements of every student at Appalachian Bible College is to be involved in a local church near the campus. So we had what was called required Christian service. So it wasn't an option for the students. We had to be a part of a local body, and we had to have skin in the game. We had to be involved in some type of ministry. So over the years, as we were growing up at Mount Tabor Baptist Church, at Grace Gospel Church, were my 2 primary churches growing up, there every year we saw coming into our congregations ABC students. To me, as a young man growing up, as elementary, middle school, and later as a high schooler, I was so impressed by these students. I just can't tell you. They seemed like the pinnacle. I mean, they were young, vibrant, their whole lives ahead of them. And what were they doing? They were studying to serve God. They loved the Lord. The men and the women were just so committed. They were going to give their lives to serve the Lord. And as I was growing up, and this is honest, there was nothing I wanted to be more than them. I wanted to be them. I watched their lives. I watched what they laughed at. I watched what they committed to. And then as I got old enough to go to Alpine Bible Camp, which was staffed totally by Appalachian Bible College students, I would have these counselors that were they were leading my cabin, and they were committed to God, and I just wanted to be like them. I just wanted to be them. So when I got old enough to consider going to a college, I applied to one college, Appalachian Bible College, all because I wanted to be something like these people who influenced my life in such a godly way, in such positive ways. The example they set for me really laid out a pattern. And I hope that I've been true to that. And that was what kind of pulled me in. And you talk about calling. Their calling was so true and so legitimate and so real. It pulled me too. And when I saw their life, I thought, God, could you use me like you're using them? And so my path was laid out, and I was pulled into it, and my calling became real at Alpine Bible Camp when I surrendered my life to serve the Lord in a full-time way, giving as much as I could to that.
So did you have an idea before going to ABC that you might be in full-time ministry, or is that something that while you were at ABC that you were like, okay, this is what I want to do full-time?
No, I was around 15. I was a high schooler, and it really came down to a challenge at one of the campfires, as traditional as that sounds, at the end of a week of camp, when the speaker just challenged young people to think about, what are you going to do with your life? I could not think of anything greater to do with my life than to serve God. So I committed to do that a couple of years before coming to the school, but I knew the school would have a big part in training me and launching me toward those pathways. So I knew it before.
Did you always think that you were going to be a stateside pastor, or did you ever think maybe he's calling me to overseas missions, or was there ever a question? And if so, how did you kind of navigate those questions?
I was sure of the direction. I wasn't sure of the path or the destination. but I knew that God would lead, and He does. God leads us. I think if we commit to the path and commit to the journey, I believe God nudges us along the way. And that happened when I was in school. I felt nudged toward pastoral ministry. And I didn't necessarily care whether it was overseas or whether stateside. But God did open up opportunities, and God laid out what seemed to be clear guidance along the way to where I just kind of fell into that and tried to follow those nudgings of the Lord.
You know, when I think about what you're saying and try to think about this theme of perseverance, it's just, to me, it's so important. You were placed in a godly family. You had family members pushing you in the right direction. You looked at those, people from ABC and at camp, and it's not like, what I'm trying to say is I think it's so important for, all of us. It's important to show up at church. It's important to be a member of the church and involved because of your influence on other people. It's not me trying to persevere on my own, but it's God's work. And then it's amazing just the fellowship aspect, how God, even kind of going through your life, is using all these different aspects. We can look back over 40 plus years. It's like, man, seeing all these benchmarks. I was talking with Pastor Joel earlier, and he was kind of recounting his schooling and, Michigan State, the Prairie Bible College, and the seminary, and just following God, committing to that journey, and then how God opens up doors and works.
And I was also inspired by, at the school, I'm sure Pastor Joel could account for this too as well. Other of you all, I know, have had some of that type of training. But we would have speakers come in, and these were like graduates of the school or real servants of the Lord who had served God for half a century. I mean, these are guys in their 70s, that would come in, and they would speak to us young, aspiring servants, who were serving in our way, but we have a lifetime ahead. And I remember sitting there thinking, could I be them? Would I have what it takes to come back in my 60s or 70s and say to a generation of students yet unborn that it is worth it? It can be done. Follow God fully and give all, and God can bless that. And I was afraid when I listened to these men that I would be unworthy of the journey. I may not be able to see it through. But God has been faithful. I haven't always been faithful. I've stumbled and made a mess of things sometimes, but God has seen me through. And now as I stand in the place of those men, I can look back and say, yes, God sustains his people and gives them the ability. But I wanted to be like them as well. I've been surrounded by such good examples, a great cloud of witnesses, I guess, in a way.
Speaking of stumbling, our next question happens to be, was there ever a big challenge or something that you regretted and you look back and you're like, this is what I learned from, and maybe something that the rest of us can learn from?
Yes.
Would you be willing to share?
No. Yeah, I'll give you one of the most recent ones. And this will tell a little bit of my story too, Zach. After about 40 years of pastoral ministry, I did feel the need to get some more filling in of the gaps in my toolkit. When COVID hit, it was a real shaking of our community. I buried a lot of people in COVID. It was hard, and I felt there was a real gap in my ability to help those who have been traumatized, those who are dealing with grief, and dealing with loss. I was so overwhelmed with it that I felt like I need to understand this better. So I actually left pastoral ministry to go into training as a healthcare chaplain. And this is called CPE, which is Clinical Pastoral Education. And I went to Johnson City Medical Center in Johnson City, Tennessee, a level 1 trauma center. And for 15 months, hours and hours of in the hospital with the traumas coming in, and also dealing every day that I was on duty with some type of grief. And I had such good instruction for Dr. Doug Dickens, and he was at the time about 75, and was pouring into me these things. And one of the things, this is my thing that I regret, I didn't know how to listen to people. And in Bible college, and I know that they don't say this, but in my mind, my impression was, okay, you go and you get answers for things, so that when people ask you questions, you can help them and give them instruction or meet the challenge of what they're dealing with. So what I did for about 40 years of ministry was, when people were talking to me, I was formulating an answer. And I'm so embarrassed to say that in front of you guys. I'm really embarrassed, because I never learned how to listen until I became a chaplain. And I learned that I had preempted people's ability to fully lay out the content of their heart, the fears of their soul, and the directionless path that they were on, because I was too busy wanting to talk. And when I learned to stop, I learned about body language. I never thought about it. But when people are talking to you, they're telling you things with their bodies. Didn't know. And then I started seeing it, and where they were guarded, or where they were fearful, or where they were hesitant, or sometimes when they were deceptive. And it helped me to formulate questions that would bring out, lower their defenses, pull from them what they're really feeling, what's really going on inside. And for 40 years, I didn't know how to do that. And I regret desperately not knowing that. And now I think it's made me a better pastor, because I've kind of re-entered pastoral duties. It's made me a better man, made me a better husband. It's made me able to really hear people rather than give them the quick answer theologically that I think might help them. And that's one of my great regrets.
Thank you for sharing. And
Yeah.
I think that's good advice for
That's great
a
advice.
lot of us who are in leadership, because I think we all may have that tendency to
Yeah.
try to answer.
Even when you are listening, you've got like your answer running through your, like you're
Right.
not listening because
Right.
you're like thinking, and everyone
Yeah.
says listen, but that's that's good advice from someone who's been faithful in ministry a lot of years, and seeing that side of thing. I'm going to skip down a couple of questions, Michael. We can kind of come back up, but with all the changes and dealing with this new side of things, very emotional, heavy topics. How do you maintain this balance between the demands of ministry and personal life, family life? How do you find room for all of that?
Well, first you have to develop an empty nest.
Okay. Yeah, that helps. Huh? All right. That's what I'm missing. I'm like, man, it's kind of crazy right now. I got 4 little boys running around.
If you find one of those, you got it made.
Okay.
No, it was hard, but I think growing up I have a son and a daughter, and what we found out, and with my wife Dreama as well, is we did ministry together. So there was never a time, it was rare that I was like out from them, but it was more serving with them. And on ministries of the church, we would do things together. They would be involved in the things that we were involved in. They developed similar interests that we had, like both of them were very musical, and Dreama's a wonderful pianist and musical leader, and they sang and did things with us in choirs, youth group. I was a youth pastor for almost a quarter of a century, so that was wonderful to pull them into we do mission trips together. So there was a lot of ministry togetherness in my family where it wasn't either or, it was both and. And to us, that brought a great commonality. And it was a glue in our family because they didn't feel like that's something Dad did without them. It's something Dad did with them and they with me. And it's continued on in their life. Both of them are very ministry minded, and now they're going to outdo me. So, and we're seeing it now with our grandchildren. Judd and Leslie have 4 at home. I'll show you a picture of them tomorrow, and just so happen to have one. And they are great at neighboring, which is something, it's kind of a great concept that I think has grown and developed. They minister to the surrounding communities, and there are a lot in Greenville, in the Overbrook area especially. A lot of these young families, everyone's having babies. They had 11 days without power after the Hurricane Helene. And, they're cooking stuff on the grill. They're having people over to their home. It's the mentality, I think, that was kind of seeped into them as they were growing up. It's just a natural overflow, not only of loving Christ, but of caring for a community. So I hope that answered your question.
No, that's perfect, yeah.
As you look back on your life, was there ever a point that you would say you could see significant sanctification in your life? Like, man, I really learned a lot about walking with the Lord during this time. And if so, maybe there are factors that, anything that you would reflect on and go that you would think led to that.
I would say the death of my father at an early age. I was 29 when my dad passed away. But God gave me a great gift in that I was able to be in the room when my dad died. My dad died, if death can be glorious, it was a glorious death. Again, part of God's blessing on me as a son. My dad had a long battle with cancer, and he was at the end of his life, and I had come to Tallahassee, Florida, which is where he and my mom lived at the time, and being in the room, my dad, who had no energy, his body was just done, his eyes opened at the time of his death, and his eyes were scanning the ceiling, eyes darting back and forth, looking and seeing something. I believe in Ecclesiastes chapter 12, it talks about the silver cord. I think it's that transition between earthly life and heavenly life that sometimes is experiential. You can see it or sense it. I believe I saw that at that moment. Nothing tangible, but I could see my dad come alive. A smile came over his face, and my dad hadn't smiled in a long time. And then he says, "I see the Lord." And I see everyone. And I'm standing at the end of the bed just praying that I do not screw up this moment by doing so. I was formulating an answer, as a pastor. And I just wanted to be still. And it was quiet in the room. My mom was whispering in my dad's ear. My aunt and uncle were standing to one side. And my dad was experiencing a going home. And then once again, he said, I see the Lord. I see everyone. I love everyone. And it was as if you could feel, what's the song? I feel the brush of angel wings. I see glory in this place. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. And I could feel that. And then I went over to my mom, and I had my hand on my dad's chest when he took his last earthly breath and inhaled his first celestial breath. And the look on his face and how real that was. I think God knew I needed to see it, because we speak of the glory of following Christ and how precious in the sight of the eyes of God are the death of his saints. And I saw it, and it's real. It's not something theoretical. It's not something we think is going to happen. We hope is tangible and meaningful, but I saw the going of a saint into the presence of the Father. And if a hand would have come out of the ceiling at that moment and said, "Do you want to go too?" I would have left my wife and my children and everything. I would have gone. Without thinking, I would have gone. And yet, my journey was still to go on. But that moment really galvanized the message that God gives to us in my heart. about the reality of that place and the reality of that relationship and how important it is. And my dad, in doing that, not only showed me how to live, but he showed me how to die. I mean, what greater thing could a son receive from a dad?
Amen.
Wow.
It's amazing.
So
Yeah. And I'm
that
sure
was a moment. That was a moment.
Yeah, I'm sure that equipped you well for what you're doing a lot now with the chaplain side of things and
I
that
wanted to. Yeah.
Different direction a little bit. Looking back on your experience, you've been in the ministry for so long, and I know things ebb and flow, and even maybe geographically different challenges. What do you see as one of the greater challenges of the church today? What do you think? You see a theme out there. They're like, we're missing the boat in this. This is something that's just really a big challenge for the Christian, for churches today.
Yeah, and that's why we jumped all over this theme of perseverance. If ever there's a time when Christianity and what we believe has been less appreciated and valued in our culture, it's now. There are few friends of Christians, of what we hold dear, of what we think is true, of what we build our life upon, of what we structure our families around, of how we define this world that we live in, our worldview. It's never been under more scrutiny and less acceptance than now. So I believe the challenge for the church is to really be able to set our minds and hearts to lovingly defend and live this faith that has been passed on to us. Generations before have paid great prices for standing for God when it was not popular. It is becoming less popular. Christians are being viewed not as part of the solution, but as a part of the problem. And we are going to have to lovingly stand with courage in the years to come. No matter who wins the election, it is going to be up to us to do that. And I believe one of the most profound ways that this occurs is with personal contact with people. Let me define that further. We're living in an automated society where people are getting less and less accustomed to personal relationships. We're becoming so distant. You old guy, you're nodding your head. You know what we're talking about. You remember what neighborhoods used to be like, where you'd walk down the road and you'd see people, you would talk to them, you would have relationships with neighbors. I have just
Borrow sugar from them.
Yeah, borrow sugar and other things. But I have lived in 2 apartment complexes, highly overpriced apartment complexes in Asheville, North Carolina, for the past 2 years. And they're gigantic. They have hundreds of units. I can't get people to look me in the eye. I mean, I irritate people walking out to my car, and they will pass me walking their dogs, for whom they're about to bend over and pick up all the excrement. And I'll say, hello, good morning. People are so fractured and unable or unwilling, crippled in their ability to make personal connections, that the thing that really is unusual and even rebellious in this generation is to forge relationships with people by serving them, by showing up in a time of crisis like we're experiencing now in North Carolina. And what my church has found out in the wake of Hurricane Helene, in the ravaged Spruce Pine, Burnsville, North Carolina area, is that this crisis has given us so many open doors to connect with people in a way that would never have occurred, because it is a gigantic open door for personal relationships and ministry that people are not going to forget. And it is already having a ripple effect in that ravaged area. And so as we as a society become more and more Facebooky, we need Christians to actually have conversations and relationships, face-to-face contact and kindness and courtesy ministry, because I believe it will become so unusual that the impact of it is going to grow and grow.
I like that you use the word that's like, it's rebellious, because people just, it's so much easier. I mean, even, I'm getting on my phone, it's easier just to go through and check out online and then to have to talk to someone.
Yeah.
But it's such a great opportunity to stand out from the culture in a amazing way. This is not one of our questions, but I was just thinking about it. You're talking about Asheville and, Helene, all this stuff. Anything, what's going on there now with you've got family or friends in that area right now? How are things faring? Or what kind of things can we be, praying for, that kind of thing? Because I know it's probably on everyone's mind, but it's, more time goes on, I think it's easy to forget about those kind of things.
You might have to limit me here, okay?
Okay.
Because I got a lot to say. The area where my church is, it's South Estito Baptist Church. It's 8 miles up Route 80 from Burnsville, North Carolina, one of these isolated roads, South Toe River, which you can see it from our church. And the South Toe River ravaged the neighborhood. There was loss of life along the South Toe down to Route 19 in Burnsville, loss of homes, loss of structures, vehicles piled up around trees. It was so fast and so furious that people were astounded. It was unprecedented. So people who would never have thought to take precautions found their homes being swept away. One of our patients, one of my hospice patients in our area, the home was swept away. The lady's body was found near the Chimney Rock area, which was decimated. And it was unthinkable, the things that were being seen. Asheville had a tremendous loss of life. Somewhere between 50 and 70 in Asheville died. And there's still many missing. Some bodies found in Tennessee. That's how fast the river was going. We have mobilized churches, and this is where I'm so proud. I just can't tell you, the churches in the area have rallied to this, to the point where by the time federal help came, they were almost unneeded, because people just took upon themselves to help their neighbors. And the distribution centers, mostly at schools, which didn't have any power or anything anyway, so they became the repository of the generosity of the nation. I mean, the outpouring has been phenomenal. I can't tell you. So that the fact they had so many donations and so many resources that they started farming it out to churches. So I know 15 churches within 10 miles of South Estito who have become the distribution centers for their local communities for much needed things. Anything is needed, everywhere from camping stoves where they can cook, and sleeping bags and canned goods and toilet paper. I mean, it's just piled up, diapers and hygiene items, medicines. Those kinds of things are easily gotten and easily deliverable. Some people are out, they would put stuff on mules, yes, mules, to get up into some of these hollers whose bridges had been washed out. And I mean, we're talking hardcore ministry when you're leading mules up the washed out creek to get to these people who have no other way. The Redneck Air Force, I was showing someone else here, we had helicopters flying in from everywhere. We got one in the parsonage front yard of our church, helicopters coming in with needed resources just the day after. It was just neat to see. But the churches in the area, I'm so proud of them and how they're ministering and really carrying the water, so to speak, in delivering help to these. And they're resilient. They're very resilient people. They're a great illustration of perseverance. And I'm going to allude to them tomorrow a little bit. But there's a lot to be done, don't get me wrong. But so much has been accomplished. And it's hard to get these people down.
Greg, you talked about the fracturing of society and that being a challenge for us to overcome. And we just talked about this natural disaster that's hit. Kind of on the flip side, what kind of bright future things do you look forward to? What, like, as you look out in the future ahead of us, what kind of is on the flip side is that? Like, here's a great thing that is occurring.
We have, one of the things that I'm encouraged by is what we're doing here. I believe a lot of times Christians, what I would call Bible-believing Christians, have been real hesitant to enter into the sphere of media. And I see that as changing, and Christians are having a more aggressive, what you guys are doing, it'd be easy not to do this, but you guys are going out of your way to get truth and get encouragement, spiritual encouragement out there. I see that as a great trend within Christianity. I also see the circling back, as I've mentioned before, I don't want to repeat myself, but personal ministry, which seems to be being lost, is, I believe, being recaptured by the church in a way at a higher rate than any other group. And I'm gonna make you guys laugh when I say this, okay? Gosh, this ages me. I do handwritten notes. You guys remember handwritten notes?
What's that?
You would think that I invented spirituality by writing a note to somebody, and they'll come and they'll show it to me. Hey, I got this from you. It's a handwritten note. You took time to think about me and write something on paper and send it to me. Now, emails are great. Emails are fine. I don't know, but there's something, the personal touch. It's almost like old school types of thinking are developing a renewed and explosive value in a less personal type of society. Also, I am so glad that Christian families are not buying into a lot of the philosophies of the world. For instance, man, we're getting off here, okay?
No.
You can edit this if you want. For instance, we're
back. No.
like things like we're in a crisis of low birth rate within America. I hear this all the time. There's some cultures they're fearful. We're not going to be able to replenish our society. And I know so many Christian couples that are enjoying their marriage. They're having kids, more than the 0.8 children. They're having a lot more kids, and they're raising these children well. In my own family and in the families I see that are raising children, they're not going in for aborting children. They're not going in for children are a menace and an anchor to my life. They understand the role that God has given Christian couples and the privilege of having children and raising families. I see that as a tremendous bright spot. While secular society seems to be destroying family and completely trying to submarine the thought of multiple children and character building and what that does in the legacy building and the future of any society, I see Christian families saying, hey, we're having kids and we're going to raise them in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. That is a future for a country. And when I see that, I just so applaud that. And I'm so proud of contemporary families of childbearing age who are embracing motherhood, fatherhood, family life. And I see that a lot. And
yeah, good work, Michael. He's got 5 kids of his own, so really, Jonathan just had first son, so just get, only need let's get 4 or 5 more, and we'll keep it keep it going.
But I've thought about that a lot. That to me, that is a tremendous bright spot because so much happens in the family, and I know
the building block.
It is. It's so foundational for everything, and as the family goes, society goes. Now, that's true that the families of America are in desperate trouble. But when I look within the church, I'm seeing strength. That gives me hope. It gives me hope.
No, that's encouraging. Perseverance, it's such a, life is hard. Life is challenging. Yeah. Those are some very practical ways being relational with your neighbor. Invest in your family, build your family. What other questions you got, Michael? We're just getting past that 50-minute mark.
I thought we were going another hour. Well, we have some young kids in here.
It's good to see these young men.
Yeah. And what advice would you give to one of these young guys who they don't know maybe God's calling them to the ministry, maybe God's calling them to be a physical therapist, probably not. That's a very, very
Too
shaky.
much school, not worth it. Too many student loans, just don't do it.
But what advice would you give to some of our young guys in here?
Yeah. And I don't want to leave the impression with you young guys especially that when I said that God challenged me to serve to make my vocation in full-time ministry, that I believe that is the only way that someone can serve God. Don't mean that at all. I believe there is sacredness in every vocation if you can take your faith and your character and a ministry mindset into those environments. That is critical within our society. So I would say to you guys that, and I've heard this said, and I believe it's true, God has placed within all of you giftings and passion and things that you have talent toward and things that interest you. And I always try to encourage young people to find those things that match their passions and become great at it. And if this leads to an employment in a way to be a productive member of our society, to provide for your family and to be able to sustain their life and encourage them, then I would really encourage you to find those things that put wind in your sails and something that can hold not only your interest but your passion over the long term. It just so happened that for me it was pastoring and full-time ministry, but I know so many people. Both of my kids are in medical fields. My son's an ER doctor in Greenville. I can't even touch sometimes the level of ministry he's able to have in an emergency room, praying with families and praying with patients and helping people in desperate situations. That is ministry, and he's touching lives there as well as in his community. So I would encourage you to do that. Secondly, and this harkens back, and I'm going to repeat myself, Mitch, every man needs 3 relationships. We all need a Paul. We need someone that we're really learning from, someone older, somebody who's been down the road further than we have, somebody who has wisdom that when they talk, we just shut up and listen. We need guys like that. We need Pauls. We need Timothy. We need Barnabases, guys with whom we minister, guys on our level, fellow soldiers that we're serving with, our contemporaries, our peers. We need friends right in where we are. And I think we all need a Timothy. We all need someone to whom we're ministering. When men have these relationships, someone that's ministering to us, pouring into us, people with whom we are serving God, and then someone that I can help, someone that I can pour my life into. A lot of men don't have those relationships. When you do, I believe it really balances a man, and it gives you input and opportunity in so many ways. And I would encourage you to identify in your life at least somebody in all 3 of those levels. You say, well, I'm only 15. Well, I guarantee you there is a 9-year-old out there who, if you paid attention to them and learned their name and talked to them just once a week, they would look up to you as like the best thing since cookies and cream ice cream. I mean, their life will be touched by you. And you think, well, I'm just a teenager. Let me tell you, I wanted to be those people when I was 9. God used them to formulate the direction of my life. So you can have that as well. A Paul, a Barnabas, and a Timothy. And I've been so blessed to have various versions of them all throughout my life. I think it's contributed to whatever God has made of me. So.
Well, I feel like so much practical advice has come out of this conversation. Just talking to you, I think everyone can probably feel it in the room, just the genuineness, authenticity. It's like, I can tell you why you've been so successful at pastoring. Some extent, you listen, like the listening talked about, you care about people, you care about God, and God has been so good in your life. So really appreciate you taking time, trying to recap some of these main themes. Your family was so involved in the things of God and pushing you in the right direction. You looked up at these older teenagers and adults that you wanted to emulate them, circling back around to the thing you just said, Paul, Barnabas, Timothy. And then how can we live, in addition to identifying those people, is we can just knock on a neighbor's door, have them over, and that is so countercultural. And, I feel like everyone's moving, North Carolina, everyone's moving to Charleston. There's so many people, I think, looking for community that are from Seattle or New York. It's, easy might not be the right word, but it's sitting there for Christians to take advantage of this in a way that the rest of society doesn't want to.
And the transplants are hungrier than anybody because they don't have, they're not in the culture, so they're looking for people to connect with. You're right. You're exactly right.
And so I think all of that fits really nicely in this theme of perseverance. Anything you want to add here, Michael?
What you said about God's grace to teach your heart to fear really resonated with me, because I remember being in that same spot too, and just your eyes open to, this is what I deserve. I don't want that. But God's grace to help me see that's where I was headed. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. I don't think I have anything else. Greg, is there any parting words that you would have for us?
Serve God fully for all the days of your life. No better thing can be done.
Thanks for listening to Take Two. Find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube for those who want to watch our videocast.